Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering human creativity. I am Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is Nate Zeisler, who serves as the Dean for Community Initiatives at the Colburn School. Nate, welcome to the show.
Hey, Aaron, so great to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Well, and I'm so excited to have you on the show. Obviously, so much of your work and leadership that you do, I feel passionately about myself. And so just think it's so important and plays such an important role in our overall field. So I'm very excited, and obviously extraordinary things happening at Colburn, who helped us to co-curate the show, one of our wonderful creative partners. So many connections between things and things that have done at Sphinx and Colburn, obviously, and everything. Yeah. So really excited. But where I thought we'd just first start off is if you could share, because community initiatives at different organizations or institutions means different things. And if you could just share for our audience, what's really the scope of the work that you do and that you're leading at Colburn?
Thanks, Aaron. And yeah, so great to be here today and great to have this conversation with you. So this is my 12th year at Colburn. I originated the position I currently hold, and what's been fantastic for me about this work is that it's been something that I've been able to grow since I started at the position. But importantly, it's been an opportunity for me to look at how an institution like Colburn can lend a hand in the community. And so I'm just going to back up for a moment to the time when I arrived at the institution. I'm a transplant from Michigan. And so Los Angeles, I never imagined living on the West Coast, but here I am 12 years later. I may never leave this part of the world. What was lovely about starting the position is that Sel Cardan, the president of the institution, gave me an entire year to look around the city of Los Angeles and figure out what the needs are of the Los Angeles community. And likewise, to dig deep within the institution at Colburn to figure out how the institution is best suited to lend a hand. And I think for me, if I think about building community initiatives at an institution like Colburn, having that time and space is an essential foundation to doing the work. And what I noticed very quickly about the context of Los Angeles is that the arts education space is much different than it is for this Midwestern boy who grew up with, the music and arts education being much more embedded in the fabric of a public school education. And it's really not as big of a part, although there are some major initiatives happening now that I think are boding well for the arts in California, which we can talk about in just a little bit. But taking that time for that first year and looking at what the needs were was really important. And what I discovered is that the context of Los Angeles that I just spoke of, where arts education is not as prevalent as it is in other parts of the country. And then the context of Colburn, which is an institution that is rooted in a history of going very deep with educational offerings for the students who are involved. It was just an incredible opportunity to look at ways to meld the two together. And so to answer your question, Aaron, the work has been about taking students from the Los Angeles community and figuring out how to bring them into the institution. So we look for there are a couple of elements that we look for. We look for proximity to the institution, because transportation is a huge issue when it comes to building programs in the community here in Los Angeles and other parts of the country. We are primarily,
especially Los Angeles.
Especially Los Angeles, yeah. So any further out than 6 miles, it's hard to build relationships with families to get them here to the institution on a regular basis. The program is rooted in high touch, high need, and we're also looking at using the programming to diversify who is represented at the school as a whole. And so the program is built upon this idea of looking for broad-based instruction in the schools, in our partner schools, and then we bring in a small number of students. We have about 200 students that we serve on a full scholarship here, and as long as they're committed to the institution and to learning, we're committed to them. So this is not about it's not about having auditions or having talent. It's about interest. It's about proclivity. It's about commitment. And so that, broadly speaking, is the program. We can dig in a little bit deeper if you'd like. I know you probably have a lot more questions for me.
Right. No, absolutely. And I would say kind of, and I love how you especially talked about, because I found this is so important when organizations, institutions are engaging with communities, taking that time to understand the community and explore the community, get to know the community, and then also taking into account logistical realities of partnering and engaging, like transportation and things. And anyone who does this work, of course, knows like how critically important. So just the thoughtfulness and intentionality of that, I love. And so now that you've kind of and are been in this work now for over a decade, what would you say are kind of some of those key results that you're seeing from it? What are some of the key outcomes you're seeing and or that you look for to say, we're doing this right?
Yeah. We have immediate signals of success, which is that students are sticking with the program, they're advancing in their art, they're being considered a full part of our institution. We started this program kind of as outside the core offerings that we have at the school, which I think is really important. Another starting key point to starting is to be able to start without interference from the full spectrum of things that are already very strongly up and running at the institution. Our community school has been around since 1950. So building programming that allows us to build outside the core, but then we've been spending the last 5 years pulling all of those programs into core. So we have signs of success from our students. And success to me, by the way, is not that they professionalize in the art form. That's one sign of success. The sign of success for me is that they use the training that they've gained from a place like Colburn in all walks of life. So I want them to be college bound. I want them to think about the soft skills that they build through learning this art form that we love so much in all aspects of the work that they do. From an artistic arts management or an engagement point of view at the institution, I want to see these programs live on in perpetuity. And that means they can't live on an island. They need to be fully integrated into the fabric of the institution. And so I've spent the last 5 or 6 years taking those programs that have been built on the side and fully kind of parsing them into the overall structure of the institution. Of course, the best sign of success is that I work myself out of a job, right? That somehow at some point my job will be irrelevant to the success of the programming and the institution. Thankfully, we still have some work to do, but and I mean that, I say that half kidding. I think that there's an acceptance to the programming now that maybe wasn't there 10 years ago, 11 years ago, which to me is a huge sign of programmatic success.
Absolutely. And you've talked about such an important dynamic that I know so many who tune into the show sometimes experience at their own institutions, which is that certain initiatives or certain aspects of our work initially either start on a periphery or are viewed maybe by saying, well, here's this central thing we do, et cetera. And that integration is so important because it benefits the entirety of the institution, obviously the entirety of the entire student body, and of course is not easy. But once it happens, it can really be extraordinary and exponential impact for the institutions. So that's wonderful to hear. Great to hear. As you now kind of are looking forward, are there any key things, like if you are looking out in the next 3 to 5 years, that you're like, I hope we're able to do this, or we're looking to do this, or have this additive component to the work that we're doing, kind of in that near term future?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. And I think the pandemic had a lot to do with this as well, just kind of hitting that 10-year mark for me. It's really interesting at this point for me to actually pick my head up and look up and out into the world. I always look out into the world at what my colleagues are doing. I'm very curious about what's happening, but actually this context of what has been happening internally at the institution, how could this possibly be a model for others to learn from, and to help other organizations support their own initiatives in the community. We're starting to look in that direction, especially coming up on the 10-year mark of one of our signature programs, the Jumpstart program. We've started to ask those questions about, what are the salient elements of this program that could be ripe for replication elsewhere. We're not trying to be an organization, a community initiative that serves thousands. We're also not trying to have that replicable. We don't want to have satellite programs all over the country, but we would love to help others learn from some of the things that we've instilled and instituted into the program. So that's one big part. And then the other part for me is just looking out more broadly we've been offering internal programming for students of all ages at the institution for the last 10 to 12 years. And to look at how those might be replicable in our Los Angeles community is the other element that we're looking deeply into at the moment.
Awesome. Great. So unfortunately, we are just about out of time, but thinking about your leadership role, especially, there's got to be, of course, tough times where it's like this just seems like it might be overwhelming, or we can't get something done. As a leader, where do you turn for inspiration, for strength during those times? And what would you encourage for, any of the young people who are coming into, especially any kind of leadership capacity, performance or administrative or entrepreneurial leadership, and are facing challenges that sometimes seem overwhelming?
Yeah. Well, first of all, for those who are struggling in any way, shape, or form in their own developing their own leadership capacity and style, I think all of us we all struggle in some way, shape, or form. And anybody who you meet and you feel like they've got it all put together, they're just, I have to say, I feel like most people are just trying to figure it out. So, that's the first thing I'll just say. But my own the things that I do personally and that I've felt very helpful and beneficial. First of all, I have a writing practice. I'm not a practicing artist per se anymore. I'm a bassoonist by craft, but I'm not out there performing bassoon, but I write every day. And I think for me, writing helps me distill my thoughts and ideas in ways that I am not otherwise able to do. And I find it incredibly helpful in terms of working through some of those big challenges that I think so many leaders face and I myself face in terms of, it's not just about creating beautiful programmings. It's about interpersonal relationships. It's about my own relationship with myself and making sure that I'm creating that balance for myself so I can do the important work. And so that would be some quick advice for those of you watching and listening, and also to say that we're all dealing with challenges in some way, shape, or form, and give yourself a pat on the back for the work that you are doing, because it's not easy in this field. It's not easy work.
Nate Zeisler, you truly are one of the arts engines who is powering human creativity in our world. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Aaron, so great to be here. Thanks for having me today.